Before we dive into the wines, I thought we'd just take a minute to talk about the 2014 harvest. And Paul, why don't I start with you and your early impressions?
Sure.
Yeah.
We've had some, with drought, this is third year of the drought, and with 12, 13, and now 14, because of lack of rain in the winter and spring, very good weather tend to be, and warmer. We've had an early start to the growing seasons, and consequently, harvest has been early. So these 3 years have all been early. This year sets records, unbelievable records, in that John will tell us that he's basically finished, and we're not even at mid-September yet.
Right.
And at Montebello, where the Cabernet and Merlot and so on comes in much later, we're what, 2/3 of the way finished. And so we have never seen this in 50 years to be this far along. But it has meant that for John and for Eric Bacher, who's so busy he couldn't come up with us today, he had to stay home. They have just seen more grapes ripening and ready to be picked faster than any other year we've had.
That's amazing.
So I think maybe viticulturally, David, some words, and then John to give us the nitty-gritty of just what it's been like in the winery.
Yeah, so David, besides being able to start your holidays earlier this year, what else does it mean to you?
Well, yeah, good fishing in October for me.
There you go.
The one interesting thing about this year is we had such a dry January, February, March, and January, February are when we get the most rain that we usually see. And this year we basically saw no rain during those months. And there's another drone coming overhead.
That's Healdsburg International.
Yeah.
That's the 1030 taking off.
And we're about half the rainfall, both here in Sonoma County and at Montebello. Luckily, we got a good amount of rain just at bud break. Otherwise, we would really be in dire straits, and that pretty much saved our vintage. We had very early bud break because of the dry weather, which has advanced everything, which is why we could start harvesting so early. That the surprise is that for the third year out of fourth, everything is kind of coming in together at once. So different varieties in Sonoma County all together, and along with our reds and Chardonnay at Montebello, everything together, and that's not ideal for planning the pace of harvest. And I should say our Russian River vineyards, a couple that we get fruit from, are a little bit later, thank goodness. And Pagani Ranch, which is one of the wines we'll be talking about, we're going to start picking some young vines there on this Sunday. Those are the only ones that are kind of following a little bit more normal, although they're going to end up being very early too. So what the dry weather has done is made for concentrated grapes and a shorter crop a little bit, especially on Zinfandel, and like I say, everything together all at once, and kind of madness out there in the vineyard. And typically harvest is mad anyway, lots of running around, but this has been particularly so.
I'm seeing some tired faces.
I'm tired. What day is it?
And madness in the winery, John?
Yeah, well, I think like David's saying, it's been the vintage of the seas, condensed, concentrated, and crazy. I mean whether it's the drought, probably I'm sure that's related. I mean it's the grapes are. Immediately in the fermenter, the color, just the richness, the viscosity of the juice is I've certainly never seen it. I mean Petit Syrah looks like Cabernet, Zinfandel looks like Petit Syrah, and Carignan looks like Zinfandel. I mean it's really it's pretty amazing to see, and certainly I've never seen grapes just sort of, like someone just flicked the switch and they're all ripe exactly at the same time. So we managed to pick everything roughly 2 weeks, but we really needed to pick it in, a day. So.
And you just told me something that I hadn't fully realized. We're on the 12th of September, and you're effectively done.
Yeah,
I mean, there's few grapes in Russian River, but here at Lytton Springs, the principal vineyard and East Bench, all done.
Yeah.
And that has never happened in our 50-year history. So
I was going to say, well, what does this harvest remind you of historically? And I mean, are there any parallels in terms of historic harvest?
2004 was an early harvest.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as condensed. It started early, but there were a few pauses along the way.
You dribbled along for a bit, yeah.
What about 77, Paul?
It was a
short crop.
cooler year and shorter crop, so it wasn't a problem. I mean, it really was spread out.
I know 90 was a condensed harvest for Sonoma, but more typical Montebello was a month later, so it was easier to deal with.
We'll talk about it maybe as we get to the 11, which of course the previous to these vintages. Usually we have finished the majority of all the Zinfandel before we start with the Bordeaux varieties in a cool region like Montebello. And this has not been a hot summer. I mean, it's more that we started so early. We had such good weather. I mean, too good, you might say, in February, March, that the vines really, I wasn't thinking that was happening, but the vines were really getting ready to, begin the season way early. And so consequently at Montebello in 14, we're, what are we, 2/3, 3/4 of the way done?
Yeah,
almost?
Two-thirds, yes.
2/3 on the 12th of September. I mean, we've usually only picked a couple of blocks by the 12th of September at most. And, we're picking up to the end of October. This year, it's going to definitely be done by the end of September, I think.
All of Montebello, you think, will be
All
done?
of Montebello instead of the end of October. I mean,
so it's a month early.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
so anyway,
amazing. So interesting vintage, and I think
it looks quality, flavors, and we just said intensity and so on. Just marvelous.
that's great. That's
So,
good.
Anyway.